All right, we are back with another JoJo Bizarre Adventure.
Yes.
We are doing volume 3 and 4, which is the second release.
So for the English releases, they do 2 volumes. So yeah, we're technically on volumes 3 and 4, but for like simplicity, we could just say 2.
All right, we are on volume 2, and I have not read Steel Ball Run. I have not read anything about part 7. This is my first read through. But I know he has read it at least once.
Yeah, once.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to continue reading. I really liked the start of Steel Ball Run. I think I rated it a 9 out of 10. And so I don't know. I just want to continue. So I don't know. I think we should just start.
Yeah, well, we're definitely gonna catch up before the anime happens. Definitely. But hey, if it releases weekly, at least we'll have content, in between. Let alone batches. Please don't be batches. I do want to say, this part of the story, of the little criticism I have seen online of Steel Ball Run, this segment is generally considered to be the worst.
Interesting.
So, we'll get into it and see our thoughts, see if that's valid or not. But yeah, let's get started.
Okay, so chapter 12 starts with, we see this colored panel of Gyro winning the first race. And also, I just really quickly want to point out his fucking JoJo ass pose right underneath it. What is he doing?
You can't lie, that goes hard. He's like a giant. All the green horses are like normal size. I don't know. I like this. I'd put this on my wall.
So Gyro wins the first race, and we see Sandman, coming in second and the rest behind them. This is when the announcer mentions a new form of points you get for winning called the ranked point system. This is just basically another way to track down the racers and is another way of getting the winning spot. I don't know why this is mentioned now. I think it is convoluted to have all these different ways of winning. I don't know. I think it's a little too much personally. But yeah, we then cut over to Poco and Diego, who are like stressing there. They don't understand how they could have possibly lost to Gyro. And we also get to see Sandman, who is at like a food stand for the racers, which is run by what seems to be a twin of the entry clerk at the first location.
How are these guys made?
They're like Oompa Loompas, bro. But yeah, the entry clerk's twin offers food to Sandman, and instead of taking the plate, he was offering to him, Sandman just straight up takes the entire water jug and like slab of meat and walks away, which is just a power move.
Keeps proving to be the best character in the part.
We then cut over to Steven Steele, who's making an announcement to the race sponsors that he has, champagne for them, as well as the next race will pick up tomorrow at 10 a.m. We see Steele's butler come up to Steven Steele and whisper in his ear about some info on Gyro Zeppeli and how he's actually an Italian foreigner and he came to America on a royal family vessel, also mentioning that Steele should interview him. We cut and hear the announcer again go off saying that Zeppeli has received a penalty for the first race due to using a weapon to obstruct another participant in the race.
No.
And it specifically mentions when he threw the steel ball at the mountain to try to stop Poco Loco's cow, but it obstructs Sandman because he got unbalanced on the rock.
To be fair, Gyro was like thinking in his head, I don't care if this is against the rules, so
yeah,
is kind of against him.
The announcer gives Gyro a 20 position penalty, which is insane, and everyone else moves up, making Sandman the new first place winner, which honestly, good job, Sandman. You deserved it.
Good job. I don't like Poco Loco rising the third.
No, me either, but whatever. He's lucky, I guess. But yeah, so we then see this placement board. Like it's an image of the placement board, and we see the names of the racers, what place they're in, the horse names, and like their breeds. We see a lot of information on this page, and it's wild. You get to see like FV Stroheim, someone named Hot Pants.
You know what's funny about all these?
What?
Most of these, I don't want to say most, but at least like half of them come into play in future like arcs. So Hot Pants is a funny name. Hot Pants becomes a major character. Stroheim, comes into play. The Boom Boom family.
The Boom Boom, yeah.
Dot Han. I like it a lot.
I guess, yeah, it does like kind of foreshadow potential characters we might see. I love this page. I love like we got a Higashikata down at 19th place.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And then also, I just want to point this out real fast. We didn't see Mountain Tim at all the first 12 chapters, and he got thrown into 4th place.
He snuck in there.
He literally like teleported to fourth. I don't even know what happened. But yeah, we cut to Gyro looking, pissed. He's looking pretty upset right now. And he walks over to Steven Steele and the race sponsors and just, slams his steel ball onto the table while it is spinning. Sheriffs come to like protect Steele, but, Steele waves them away, asking if, Gyro had any complaints, which Gyro kind of just says no and walks away. Steven gets reminded by his butler that, he wants to interview Gyro. And he tries to call Gyro back. All of a sudden, all the champagne corks pop out and explode, shooting champagne caps everywhere, which one shoots towards Johnny, which then he catches. Gyro then kind of walks up to Johnny, asking him if he will keep following him, which Johnny obviously is like, hell yeah, I will. I'm even gonna beat you this time.
I love Johnny, bro.
He's like a leash. But since they're now kind of going to be together, Gyro then gives Johnny another lesson on spin and how to control it, saying how pretty much to not let your muscles know about the spin and that it should only be like skin level when you're spinning. We see Johnny try spinning the cork and it spins, but then it falls out of his hand, landing on his horse and causing him to get booted off of his horse and falling to the ground.
I love this page showing that. The art's so sick.
We then kind of get this nice moment of Gyro going up to Johnny and asking him to work together to be able to like survive and do well in this next race, which is over 750 miles long. We're starting to see the group building already, which I like.
This is the beginning of a long relationship. I love their dynamic, even like at the start though.
We then cut to the future a little bit with Steven Steele being dragged out into the middle of the desert on carriage by some sheriffs. These sheriffs mentioning how people have died during the first race, showing, Steven how the people died. And we see behind a rock, there are multiple dead men with their like intestines strung out long and far, which obviously distraughts Steven Steele. He like yells like, what is the meaning of this? And how could it have possibly happened during this race when there are like that many people around? And, the sheriff goes through some potential options, like it could be birds that have done this, but it's probably not. And in fact, really the only option is that a human could have caused this and murdered these people. And the chapter ends with the sheriff saying that with this race continuing, there is a high chance there will be more victims.
Yeah.
They are playing really strong into this like mystery aspect. Like all these chapters have been very, mysterious. What could be happening? And I like it.
Next chapter. We start the chapter off with the appearance of Mountain Tim. He shows up to the crime scene in order to help investigate the murder. And during his introduction, all the horses like literally bow their heads in respect. I love how like kind of cheesy spaghetti western cowboy he is. It's very funny, but I've never liked a character and disliked a character faster because like literally the next page he flirts with Lucy.
Yep, almost immediately, yeah.
And she's like 14. That's not like, you can't be like, oh, I thought she was 18. Also, I think a little bit later we get an idea of his age and he's like in his 30s too. I don't know, man. But yeah, as Mountain Tim investigates the scene, he refers the strange, like straying guts to an old legend where people in the area gain mysterious abilities, or then like natives called them curses. It's just like kind of this like description of like the tales the Indians would talk about.
Mm-hmm.
He then uses his rope to somehow like grab a little button from inside one of the bottles that had dropped.
I like how in that like he completely misses and yet the button he still is able to get it. Like he doesn't even like really touch the bottle.
It's like a little hint at his stand ability. We'll get into it later. With their only lead being the button, the chapter cuts to the racers getting ready for the next checkpoint.
Actually, 2 hints being the button as well as the hoof prints that he found with the mountain indents.
We get to see Gyro and Johnny talking strategy. Arizona is Sandman's turf, so he has an advantage because, I mean, he was already goated. But, like, on top of that, it's literally his turf, so they have to like make plays here if they want to beat Sandman. And Sandman's he already has the most points. And then we get to see Gyro making fun of Mountain Tim's hat, which I find very funny considering Mountain Tim's hat is like actually kind of normal as opposed to his weird ass sun hat.
It's funny, yeah, because like, you know, Mountain Tim is just walking over, you know, he hasn't even done anything wrong.
I love how immature he is. Johnny points out that they're going to need to prioritize the water holes so they don't die of dehydration. That's going to be like the strategy of this like upcoming checkpoint. And time passes and the racers head off for the next checkpoint. Just like the last race, Gyro just instantly sprints ahead of the rest. As per usual, Johnny reluctantly matches his speed and Johnny just like yells at him to like explain himself. Johnny's just so pissed that Gyro just pulled this shit again. Gyro tells Johnny that he's taking the shortest route, even though there won't be water for miles.
It's, I don't know, I find it so funny how like they're about to work together, and I mean they are, but like it's Gyro just doesn't really care. He straight up sprints away, and then immediately once Johnny catches up, he immediately darts another way.
He's not going to fill in Johnny on anything.
I know.
After this, a very interesting person named Robinson follows the pair. And this guy is the most stand user looking stand user I think I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
I mean, he literally has like this tape around him that says like true love. And I mean, it's to be assumed that this is the murderer.
I mean, yeah, you look at him and then like you see like this panel of the hoof print with like a little broken part on it that Mountain Tim was identified previously. So it is assumed that this might be our murderer.
This chapter is funny to me because I think a lot of it is just like Gyro and Johnny doing the, you know, the monkey versus lion image.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Fucking Gyro's just rage baiting Johnny, bro.
I think that's actually what he's doing.
All right, so chapter 14 starts with Johnny noticing Robinson following roughly 150 lengths behind them and pretty much declaring that everyone who must be following Gyro, they must be some kind of weirdo. They're strange. And we see, you know, as they continue walking, they've been going for 6 hours. Johnny asks if Gyro even knows where he is going at this point, mentioning how the mountain in front of him shouldn't even be there. And we get to see like Gyro look at the map and he like shuffles around with it and he's like, yeah, we'll be fine, probably. Like this is like actually the rage bait here, where he's like, it's a perfect match, everything's a-okay. Maybe.
This scene is like genuinely funny.
Their banter kills me, dude. I love their relationship. You know, they start arguing back and forth with each other when all of a sudden something whizzes by Gyro's ear and they freeze looking back at the rider behind them. Suddenly, Gyro's ear starts bleeding and has multiple holes in it. And then more things, you know, start flying at Johnny and Gyro, cutting them both up. They both look back and notice the rider getting even closer to them, trying to ride up next to them, and Gyro starts to freak out. Johnny says that they should take cover behind the rocks since the direction of the attack, since the whizzes that were coming at them were coming from ahead of them. It just doesn't make sense that it could be where the rider is. So, you know, they take cover behind the rocks and Johnny looks down and notices that the things that cut them were cactus needles from a cactus called chalas.
I'm sure that's how you pronounce it.
I'm sure that is basically a cactus that shoots needles when something gets close to it. Johnny looks and he finds the cacti behind the rock, but it doesn't make sense that it would be able to hit them since they are generally too far away from the cacti. They decided it's best to make a run for it, and as they do, Johnny's horse's reins get hit by the needles and tear right through, and the needles tear right through it, causing him to like fall and getting needles like stabbed into his eyes.
Doing this to a disabled person? Okay, Robinson.
Actually abusing a disabled person. Robinson, you know, he keeps approaching and Johnny tells Gyro to just go on without him since he can't get back on his horse since he just has blood in his eyes and he can't see. Gyro, instead of running away, Gyro then heads straight for Robinson, grabbing his steel balls and throws them
Dude, I love the relationship in this chapter like so much.
There's a lot of like mutual respect going on here. But yeah, so he throws the steel balls at Robinson, but he gets hit by more needles, causing his like spinning balls to not really throw, and they just kind of fall straight to the floor. But we then cut over to see Robinson close up, and we see like bugs come out of his eyes, and we learn that he has been using his bugs inside of his body to get close to the cacti to be able to shoot needles directly at Gyro and Johnny by their vibrations and proximity to the cacti.
I love how this is never explained to be a stand.
They don't say it's a stand.
We can like theorize it's a stand, or like it genuinely just can be a thing this guy learned.
We see a panel of Gyro sneering. I kind of imagine in the anime they'll play like freaking Gyro's theme here, because he sneers and he says that he didn't drop his steel balls on the ground for nothing. And we start to see the ground that is filled with like the cacti start vibrating from the steel ball spinning. Gyro then he jumps back, and the cacti needles shoot just like all the cacti that's nearby. The needles shoot directly at Robinson, needling him like intensively and brutally. Like that dude's not. I think that dude's dead after this. But yeah, we then cut away to like a bunch of hoof prints on the floor, and we see Mountain Tim, who is approaching a seemingly dead Robinson, and we learn that Robinson was actually not the one with the chipped hoof prints.
Ooh.
The chapter ends.
Even though like Robinson isn't like one of the most memorable villains, just because he doesn't have a ton of screen time.
Yeah.
I actually really like this chapter. That's kind of one of my favorites so far.
I think I would agree with you. It's mostly because this chapter includes so much of like Johnny and Gyro banter that I just have so much fun reading it. And Robinson, he didn't need to be a part 1, part 2 fight, and he wasn't. And so it kept it pretty sweet and short. So
yep.
I liked it. I don't know.
Next chapter. So we start the chapter with Johnny and Gyro setting up a campfire, and I absolutely love this panel. It's like one of my favorites. It just like encapsulates the vibes of this part so well to me.
I know.
Yeah, we just get some details here about the sunset. They're approximately 60 miles to the next watering hole, and we continue. So after this, we get a monologue, which I think is from Johnny, like from the future. It could just be a narrator. I'm not completely sure.
I'm not really sure, because it is very fourth wall breaking.
Johnny did break the fourth wall in like the first chapter though, so that's like the only thing
that is true.
Shows. I'm not sure, but anyways, it tells the story of a little European boy named Marco, who was a servant or like / shoe shiner for a baron. One day, the military police busted into the place, and Marco was arrested because the baron was plotting to assassinate the king. Marco and all the other servants were sentenced to execution because the inquisitor said that there was no way Marco didn't know, which like...
Bro is 9.
This is a somewhat random story, but it's going to come into play later. We cut back to Johnny and Gyro. Johnny successfully attempts to spin the cork Gyro gave him. Johnny yells at Gyro to look, but he misses it. Gyro says, "I gotta watch you every minute of the day." But like immediately after, he just shows surprise and tells Johnny to try again. Johnny tries to find the cork until it lands inside the back of his shirt after popping out of his horse's ass, which is just unfortunate. Especially, his ass can't like get that because he can't even move his legs.
I love how as it falls down, it like makes a poot noise, and you see just like Johnny like poot.
He says poot twice. He's like poot.
He's so
Poot?
flabbergasted by this.
Gyro points out to Johnny that someone is following them in the night. Gyro tells Johnny to grab his gun, and as Johnny attempts to find it, he accidentally spells out some of Gyro's stuff. He gets a glimpse of a newspaper of the little boy from before, as well as a royal crest that only nobles should be able to have access to. Gyro warns Johnny not to go through his stuff, and Johnny responds by asking him about the items, and then Gyro just goes silent. Before the man on the horse gets any closer, Gyro yells at him to just stay away. The man screams that he was bitten by a poisonous lizard, and Johnny recognizes the lizard the man is talking about, so they end up believing his story. The man then grabs his belt and chokes himself on it like as an anesthetic, which I don't think you're supposed to choke your throat out.
What he does is so weird. He like wraps the belt around his neck, he ties one end to a tree and the other one to his foot. What are we doing? It's so weird.
And he like says, "I have all the ladies do this for me too," so I just think he's a freak. to be completely honest. As the man pulls, he also cuts himself with a knife that he just tosses away. Gyro throws the firewood to the man and tells him to leave, and the man looks like he just fell over in a coma.
Looks like he died.
It kind of does. It just looks like he chokes himself out for no reason. So the pair approach him, and Gyro takes a step onto the knife, and he notices his foot all cut up just out of nowhere. Weird. Might be an enemy stand user. Johnny takes a look at the placements and finds out that the man is one of 3 people with the last name Boom Boom. Which raises some suspicion, because, like, why would he be out on his own?
Yeah, why is he alone?
They finished all together in the last race, so it's very suspicious. We cut to the rest of the Boom Boom family riding their horses, and one of them is concerned for their brother being dead. And the father tells them that real men don't cry. And that Boom Boom just looks like a woman to me.
I thought it was a woman for a while.
Johnny and Gyro notice them riding towards them, so they prepare for battle. Gyro looks down and notices his foot again, with it just like getting worse. It's like the cuts are just growing. So yeah, that's like pretty much it for the chapter. I do want to say that for this upcoming fight, an aspect I do really like about it is that this is a stand fight where the 2 main characters both don't have a stand and don't know what the fuck a stand is, which I don't think has ever been done before in JoJo.
But yeah, chapter 16 starts right back into the action of the battle. Gyro starts feeling like there is something burrowing inside of his leg now, and the enemies keep rushing towards Johnny and Gyro. Johnny pulls out the gun and tries to shoot, but the gun suddenly like breaks into pieces and falls like right on top of Gyro, getting stuck to his leg and starting to combine with it. We then see the knife, which is also starting to move towards Gyro, and that's when Johnny realizes that like the gun and the knife are both made from iron, and so is blood. So maybe these people are able to control iron, which is a crazy assumption to come from Johnny. But I mean, you know, he's a smart cookie. He throws out the biggest hypothetical possible.
That is one thing, because I do think it's completely unrealistic that either Johnny or Gyro could just like throw out these hypotheticals.
Like, we're witnessing these pieces of like the gun mend or like combined with Gyro's flesh, and we see like the knife slowly moving towards Gyro. I don't know what I would be thinking in that moment, but it wouldn't be like, they can control the iron. Like, I don't even know that these things are made out of iron. Yeah, so Gyro, you know, he throws out one of his steel balls at one of the Boom Booms, the one with like the metal jaw.
How does it not get magnetized? I don't know.
We all know it's made out of steel, not iron. And as he throws it, the dude is able to like stop the ball from hitting him, as well as while the ball's, you know, coming towards him, he's able to like shave away most of it, probably like all the iron out of the steel.
Unfortunately, that's kind of aura.
They start circling Gyro and Johnny, and Gyro realizes that these people are on another level and they must somehow be superhuman.
He really likes throwing that around, huh?
Yeah, he does. As he says this, he notices like this weird ghost-like creature behind Andrew Boom Boom, the one who was like choking himself for only but a moment, and it disappears while his attention gets thrown onto his leg that starts to like bleed, with the metal digging deeper into his flesh as the enemies are getting closer. Gyro and Johnny then realize that the physical contact of the blood on the knife is what caused this, and that if the enemies get right next to Gyro, they could probably pull the iron straight out of his body. This is probably the last time I'm going to say this, but like, the assumptions are wild here. The Boom Booms start to banter with each other for a while, and Andrew starts to charge right at Gyro when Gyro throws his other steel ball, purposely missing Andrew and hitting it on the ground to make a big chunk of rock go straight through his stomach. And that's when the chapter ends.
Gory.
It kind of is. If I were to explain this family dynamic, it's like Lawrence is like the more kind, timid one. Andrew is like, I don't know, just kind of a freak.
Brat.
Yeah.
Freaky brat.
Freaky brat. And then the father is just a complete deadbeat. Like, he's just an asshole.
He's just like genuinely just a bad person in every sense of the word. Moving on. Chapter 17. Johnny and Gyro flee the scene. As they escape further, Gyro's leg starts healing, which, kind of goes with their theory that, like, them getting closer magnetizes. So they decide to head straight for the waterhole because they're just better racers than the Boom Booms, so they don't think they'll catch up. While we come back to the family, the father unsuccessfully shoots his lead bullet at the two, and after that he decides to shoot his gun through Andrew, which ends up splattering Andrew's blood onto Johnny, magnetizing him.
Father of the year over here, bro. Shooting the bullet through the whole Gyro mate. He didn't even announce it. He just said, "Hey Andrew, move a little to the right for me," and then just shot at him.
The father reveals that there has been someone following from behind them this entire time and tells them that he plans on framing Johnny and Gyro somehow. The father starts morphing his face with the power of iron, which I have no idea how that works at all. You just kind of have to accept it, I guess. And we cut to Mountain Tim walking, or not walking, but riding. He's following their direction with a lantern because it is nighttime. And the way he rides his horse is like the most JoJo thing I've ever seen. Both arms are on one side and he's posing while riding. He comes across a spiky brush and sees that someone's hiding. He tells them to put their hands up, and the father turns his head with the face of Johnny Joestar.
Whoa.
He throws horseshoe at Tim that's covered with blood, probably Andrew's, and Mountain Tim catches it with his rope, but the blood still splatters on him. After this, the father crawls through the brush away from him. In response, Mountain Tim uses his stand, which has something to do with his rope, and catches him. And basically his stand ability is he has full control of his rope, and he can move body parts around the rope.
It's a little similar to Jolene's stand from part 6.
And I actually really like how simple the stand is. I like the approach that, especially since this is a new universe, to start out with more simple stand abilities.
I agree.
I think that's a cool idea. Mountain Tim then grabs the father by sending his hand down the rope. The father cuts the rope with his knife and ends up getting away. He meets up with the Boom Boom family, like the rest of the Boom Booms, and he rides away with the knowledge that he knows what Mountain Tim's stand does, as well as he talks to the pair, telling them he's basically strategizing that he wants to magnetize Johnny and Gyro with Mountain Tim and just kill all of them.
Yeah, so chapter 18 starts with Gyro and Johnny still booking it for the watering hole and looking behind them to see a rider who has been following them for apparently hours at this point. The rider takes a massive leap forward and is getting closer when Gyro realizes that the person chasing them is Mountain Tim. They keep running because they think Mountain Tim could still be a threat considering their 100% ratio of bad people they have met in the desert stage.
That line before from Johnny where he's like, man, everyone following us is going to be a bunch of weirdos.
But yeah, so we cut over to Mountain Tim, who is still following them, specifically Johnny, and we see Johnny realize why Mountain Tim is catching up so fast. I mean, he is speeding up, but it's also because Johnny is slowing down and being pulled backwards. Suddenly, Johnny's horse saddle comes apart by the metal pieces, and the metal pieces go straight into him, which make Johnny go flying off of the horse. This happens a lot to him, I'm noticing.
Poor guy.
The same thing happens to Gyro, and he also flies off of his horse, and they start to realize that the Boom Booms may not be involved anymore, and that it could be being caused by Mountain Tim. They keep getting dragged towards Mountain Tim, and they are already just starting to feel their skin splitting, so they try to yell and get him to stop heading towards them.
Before this happens too, we get a little moment where the Boom Booms celebrate their partial victory, and Andrew's on the ground, and he's like, by the way, I'm pretty cold. My vision's blurry. And then the dad is just like, are you trying to ruin our fun right now? Are you seriously trying to ruin the amazing time we're having? I do really like the dark humor of this fight.
I'm pretty sure, by the way, at this point, Andrew's retired. We're not going to see him anymore.
Yeah, I think he probably just dies off screen.
But yeah, so they keep getting dragged towards Mountain Tim, and they start to feel their skin splitting, so they try to yell.
Oh yeah, the skin bubbles out of their faces and their skin. Such a disgusting concept.
But yeah, so they try to yell to get him to stop heading towards them. And we cut to Mountain Tim's perspective, and he can notice them yelling, but he cannot hear them. And so Gyro notices this and chucks his steel ball in the sky towards Mountain Tim, but making it curve into a mountain due to the magnetic pull, causing a rock avalanche that darts directly at Mountain Tim due to there being iron in the rocks. Mountain Tim gets hit by the rocks and falls off of his horse, and he realizes that something is pulling him, and that like his gun is now stuck on his arm, and he flies directly towards Gyro and Johnny. Suddenly, before they can explode for being, too close together, Mountain Tim uses his lasso ability and spreads his body apart and climbs up the top of the mountain, realizing he was chasing the wrong guy. The chapter ends.
Yeah, it does. We get into chapter 9.
Teen.
Mountain Tim learns about the truth of the Boom Boom family from Johnny and Gyro. Then he shimmies his way up the mountains as he tells the secret behind his ability. Basically, 15 years ago, Mountain Tim was a part of the army and he roamed the Arizona desert. Eventually, his team got stranded and they all just started to die out from dehydration and just from the heat. And what they didn't realize is that they entered the Devil's Palm. In this place, compasses don't work and the terrain would just completely change from what it usually is. He mentions that Indians say that the Devil's Palm can move several miles in a day, that a meteorite fell there a long time ago. I think the whole meteorite thing might be retconned later, but I might also be wrong about that. I don't think that part of it really matters too much, but I could be wrong. During this expedition, Mountain Tim, on the verge of death, got revived by his stand awakening and using his rope to gather water, just from all surrounding moisture, I guess. He goes on to say that Indians consider them curses, but he calls it a stand because it helps him stand up to his truck.
This has got to be one of the worst ways to give the name for stand.
But you can't use the excuse in part 3 that they stand next to you. But I do like this explanation for stands because we get to know a part of it, but there's still some underlying mysteries. And you can tell stands are different in this universe than in the normal JoJo series. After this, Lawrence sneaks up behind Gyro along with his father. Before Lawrence can cut Mountain Tim's rope, Gyro tries to attack. Before his hit lands, the Boom Booms magnetize the iron in the sand, damaging the three as well as cutting Mountain Tim's rope up in the process. The stand emerges from this and actively pulls them closer. Mountain Tim attempts to shoot Lawrence, but the stand deflects. Gyro yells at Johnny to spin the lead bullet on the ground because he's the only one with a free hand. Unfortunately, Mountain Tim lands directly on top of them and they start to crush each other. And as they're getting torn apart, Gyro teaches Johnny lesson 3, which is to believe in the spin. And the moment here of Johnny actually getting the bullet to spin is actually pretty hype. Johnny has hype moments, but just as Johnny gets the bullet spinning, the father steps onto Johnny's hand. As he is about to claim victory, Lawrence exclaims that he needs to come back before he gets hurt. The father looks down and sees that Johnny is causing a spin in the sand. Johnny turns his hand and finds his nails spinning like crazy.
This is so gross to me, by the way. What on earth? I don't like it.
You don't like some body horror in your main character's stand ability? Mountain Tim says, well, I'll be. That's a stand. Which, there we go. I don't know. There's a lot of assumptions here, but, whatever. Lawrence screams out to his father about his leg, and it gets cut off, just completely. After this, the rest of his body follows suit, and he gets just completely torn in half.
I'm not sure how that happened, but it just kind of, reminds me of when, the katana gets pulled out slightly in, animes, and then closed, and then all of a sudden, their body just splits into pieces.
I don't know if it's from Johnny's nails, or it's from Johnny spinning the sand to redirect into him.
I don't know.
It's kind of unclear, but, Daddy Boom Boom out for the count.
What a shame.
All right, chapter 20.
So chapter 20 starts back in the action yet again with kind of Johnny confused, startled about what is happening with his fingernails. I would be freaking out too. When suddenly Lawrence rushes on top of Johnny, pissed at killing his father, and starts to pull the iron straight out from Johnny's neck. Johnny then, somehow leaps up and over him, managing to cut Lawrence's foot in the process with the spinning fingernails and landing flat on the floor since he's still able to move his legs.
I think he did the same thing he did with the horse at the beginning of the race. How he spun on top of his horse. I think that's what he just did.
Johnny, then again asks what is happening to him when Mountain Tim says that it's a stand and that they must have crossed into the Devil's Palms territory without realizing. Mountain Tim rushes to his horse, telling them to do the same so they can get out of the Devil's Palm as quickly as possible before they get lost and will never ever find the next watering hole. Lawrence Boom Boom threatens revenge on them as they run off, saying that Gyro will never reach the finish line and that more people will be after him due to a bounty on Gyro's head for $200,000 from one of his fellow countrymen. Johnny notices this, and as they ride far off, Johnny justifiably demands answers to why Gyro is being hunted with a bounty, and also why, Gyro joined this race, since this is causing danger to Johnny. He almost died. We then cut.
Oh, wait, okay, before we get to this part, I want to talk about this fight, because, anytime I hear about complaints about the part, I hear about this fight, so it's, probably the most controversial. I actually think it was pretty solid. I like how it unraveled some of the mystery behind stands. My only complaints is that I think it was a little too long, and that some of the momentum the part has had up to this point slows down. This feels more like standard JoJo. It doesn't quite have the pacing of the previous chapters, in my opinion. But if this is the worst fight in Steel Wall Run, I feel like you're gonna know this part is gonna be pretty amazing.
On this fight specifically, I think, because I do agree it's a little long, the fight itself is kind of unclear at points, which is not amazing when sometimes I'm pulling out freaking Gyro and Johnny assumptions on what's happening. That, and I would say another complaint I'd probably have is the buildup of who the murderers are. Having Mountain Tim follow these horse tracks all the way here, and for them to kind of be, I like them. I thought they were funny, but they are just kind of bumbling buffoons who hate each other. They're not I felt like the person that they'd be fighting would be much more, I don't know, especially with all the mystery around. I expected them to be much more serial killer vibes.
I get what you mean. You think it's going to be a Halloween situation, but it ends up feeling more like a Texas Chainsaw kind of thing.
But yeah, so Johnny's demanding answers, and we get cut back to Gyro's backstory, where Gyro's father gets summoned by the king's servant once or twice a month, and every time that happens, the king's servant asks Gyro for his age. Gyro's father was a doctor who cared for anyone, no matter their wealth, and one day we cut to his father asking Gyro to take a steel ball out of his hand, to which Gyro kind of plays dirty by making books fall and making his drink spill to try to steal it. When his father gets a little, you could see he's kind of frustrated and tells him that he's supposed to be using spin to try and steal it, to which Gyro says he cannot, when his father says he has to learn spin by the age 13, just like he did and just like his father did before him. Time passes, and when the day came, Gyro was 13. The king's servant took him and his father to the king via carriage.
Gyro's fit kind of goes unbelievably hard here.
It actually kind of does.
I could only describe it as royal punk. It's kind of fire, honestly.
As they get to the castle grounds, his father tells Gyro that true happiness lies within family, and in order to protect his family, he must protect his country. Yeah, his father appoints him as an assistant due to his family lineage, when then his father puts on an executioner's mask and runs off and performs his duty executing someone. And Gyro watches this kind of stunned, kind of shocked. And when his father finishes, he tells him to clean off his bloodied sword. Did Gyro? I'm pretty confident Gyro had no clue about this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't expect it. This was shocking for me. It came out of nowhere, and I love it. I love the executioner's fit. There's a point where when Gyro sees his father kill the dude, you get a close up on his face, and it's I don't even know what you describe that lightning overlay on his face. It's so fascinating, how they're utilizing stuff to convey emotion. I don't know. I love it. But yeah, so being the executioner has been a duty of the Zeppeli family for nearly 400 years. And in order for the kills to be clean and not painful, they need to study anatomy. The fact that a second blow is not considered acceptable. So they must learn many medical skills and combat skills. One of these skills was the steel ball, which was created in order to calm the body before execution. At the age of 25, Gyro was set to inherit the duty as executioner. His father was starting to retire, but until one day a little boy named Marco was set for execution for treason. I think this is interesting because I love the foreshadowing of Marco a while ago, and the reason why he had the newspaper and needed the $50 million is now coming into play here.
Yeah, we kind of get some context, and I thought this chapter was really good.
Yeah, that is the end of the chapter, so.
On to the next chapter. This chapter starts off with an explanation as to why the Zeppelis have to have so much knowledge of anatomy and combat. One time, there was a man set up for execution who had a missing vertebrae, and since Gyro's father knew anatomy, he accounted for this and still had it lean execution. And on a different day, another man came in for execution who had all his joints bent in the opposite direction. This man slipped free of his restraints and held a man hostage. Gyro stepped forward and threw his steel ball at the hostage, which spun the hostage's clothes onto the guy who's set to be executed. It just wraps onto him. And I feel like every single chapter of this part has a different super unique use of spin, and I kind of love this ability.
It gives spin such a wide variety of use cases.
Also, Gyro throwing the steel ball here is just aura. So Gyro had come of age to take his father's place. He had a conversation with his father about how Gyro filed an objection for Marco. His father was very disappointed and told Gyro that he had only brought turmoil to his country, as well as how the Zeppelis' duty is not to decide justice, only to enforce it. Gyro would turn 25, the age where he would overtake his father. At the same time, Marco would be executed, meaning that would be his first execution.
Well, kind of fucked up, by the way. Your first execution is a child.
His father warned him to never speak of his grievances again. The king's servant walked up to Gyro one day and asked him what age he was. Gyro just responds, "You know damn well how old I am." Despite his father's warnings, Gyro complained to the servant about the execution and how it went against his morals. The servant asked Gyro if he would put his life on the line for the boy. Gyro agreed that he would, and the servant went on to explain that he would need a royal pardon derived from a victory in something like war. While there was no war occurring, the servant showed Gyro a newspaper about the upcoming Steel Ball Run race, where the victor would become world-renowned hero and bring glory to their country. We cut back to the present with a totally not evil-looking stand user pulling up to the first checkpoint. He asks the Steel Ball Run crew about his placement, and they tell him that he's in the 4th place, right behind Gyro and Johnny, who, when they arrived, kept arguing on who was first, which...
Of course.
Yeah, of course, they have to bicker like a, married couple. The man who pulled up, his name is Oye. So when he's talking to them, he finds a royal seal on the ground, and he goes searching for Gyro. The first place he checks is inside a hotel, and he goes into one of the rooms and digs through someone's belongings. Mountain Tim appears from behind the curtain. He was apparently waiting there.
Yeah, he was chilling there behind the curtain.
He points his gun at Oye, and he asks him what he's doing, going through his bags. And Oye responds by asking where Gyro is. Mountain Tim's like, "You can't just answer me with another question." Oye finds a letter that the seal broke off. Mountain Tim attempts to grab his shoulder, but the skin rips right off.
This is gross, the way the skin rips off.
Why does every chapter have to have something so gross?
It's always freaking body horror. Why is it always body horror?
But yeah, his skin rips right off. Oye reads the letter and finds out the king's servant wrote a message about a zombie horse that apparently will heal the fatigue and injury of Gyro.
Fascinating.
As Oye leaves the room, he tells Mountain Tim to not open his hand. Mountain Tim does this anyways, and the chapter ends with him getting blown up by his stand ability.
There's no way he's surviving this.
R.I.P.
Look at the way his mouth is. He's not okay.
I mean, he could still breathe. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. Chapter 22 starts with Johnny and Gyro watching as this hotel that they were staying in just gets blown to smithereens, and they find Mountain Tim bloodied and split apart by his rope. He is alive. How on earth? But yeah, Mountain Tim is still alive, and he warns Gyro and Johnny of the enemy stand user. Oye sneaks behind Gyro and touches Gyro's hand, which places the bomb pins on it. Mountain Tim then yells to Gyro that the rules of his ability is that if Gyro opens his hand, the pins will fall out, causing an explosion.
The stand is definitely similar to Killer Queen.
That's what I was thinking as well. I've noticed so far there has been a few stand users that have similarities.
Even though the stand is like kind of similar. I still really like how simple it is. And especially considering what the last part was and what they did with stands there, I like that it's kind of taking a step backwards from just going absolutely bonkers with stands.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated, and I'm glad that they are keeping it simple here. Gyro explains to Johnny that Oye is actually a terrorist that tried to blow up the king's carriage back in Italy, but instead killed just a bunch of innocent people. So Oye tells them about how God sent him on this quest and gifted him this ability as he followed them through the devil's palm. It is interesting how he only has just recently got this stand ability. Like, this is a new thing for him too. Yeah, Oye kicks dirt onto mice, which causes pins to be in them, I guess. Yeah, like the stand ability causes pins to be on these mice, and they start running towards Gyro with their pins falling off of them, blowing both Gyro and Johnny backwards into like a building. Gyro tries to keep his hands closed, but one of the pins from the inside of his hand falls out. So in response, this is also crazy. In response, Gyro like grabs the pin and stabs it through the top side of his hand into the bottom so the bomb doesn't go off.
So fucking cool, bro.
The amount of balls this man has on him.
He has steel balls. That's like the easiest joke to make in the entire part. I'm so sorry you guys had to hear that.
Yeah, but all the pressure of the situation causes Gyro's hands to start like sweating a ton. It looks like his hands are melting. Before all the pins can fall out through his sweat, Gyro throws his steel ball at Oye, telling Johnny the final secret technique of the spin, which is to redirect damage. He shows Johnny that he moved the damage from his arm into his legs so that he can maintain a throwing hand, redirecting his injury into his leg, causing his leg to blow up instead. And Gyro gets on his horse and starts to chase after Oye, who is now sprinting for the zombie horse.
It is funny. Oh, Gyro here says that this is the final lesson of the spin. This is not the final lesson of the spin. That was just a lie.
But yeah, the chapter ends.
Now on to the final chapter. We get a shot of Johnny and Gyro riding through the desert after Oye. I love this panel, kind of like the campfire one. It just fire. I love the environment.
I love like how he displays the environment too, like with the name of this chapter, like some of the rocks or the mountains peek over the actual text.
Gyro tells Johnny that the terrorist has nothing to do with him, but Johnny just shrugs this off and continues. Johnny asks if the zombie horse can heal his legs, and Gyro tells him not to come to any conclusions, aka no. In order to get Johnny to leave, Gyro tells him that he's a burden, but Johnny tells him that he's done taking orders and that they're past going their separate ways. Oye keeps riding and strategizes that Gyro won't be able to kill him with the steel balls unless they get closer than 20 yards. He then touches water from his canteen and drops it into the river they're riding on. And this basically just makes the entire river a bomb. Johnny suggests that they should just climb the rocks, but Gyro dismisses this, opting for running max speed so they can run faster than the bombs can activate, which is very Gyro.
That is so Gyro.
So they reach a waterfall, and Johnny notices the explosions catching up to them. Oye knocks off a hornet's nest from a branch, placing bombs on all of the hornets, and Johnny screams for his life, which is a completely valid reaction, and I'm there with Johnny. I don't care if there's bombs.
No, there's hornets. And now the hornets are suicidal.
Gyro tells Johnny to not slow down, of course, so that they can close in for the kill. Oye mocks them because he is more than 30 yards away, and any attack from that range couldn't be fatal. Gyro throws out his steel ball midair, and it flies into the spiderweb, catching all of the hornets and setting off the bombs away from Johnny and Gyro. So they just get out of that pinch safely, which is just absolutely bonkers.
I also love how Johnny was going to just straight up use his spinning fingernails to just kill them one by one.
Yeah, like that was going to do anything. Thanks, Johnny. This is the guy who figured out the entire stand user's ability. A part of Gyro's face all of a sudden just blows up, and the pair realize that Oye is attaching bombs to cigarette smoke so that the air can blow up inside of their mouths. And this actually made me laugh out loud because Gyro and Oye just keep one-upping each other.
I know.
And it's fucking hilarious. As Oye gloats about how he's going to kill the king with his new ability, he notices a part of the spiderweb following him in the air alongside a buzzing noise. He snaps the web in half, thinking the buzzing noise is from the hornets. And here I assume his ability, he can deactivate his bombs so it wouldn't hurt him. So that's why he wasn't scared.
That makes sense.
To his surprise, the buzzing noise was actually coming from Johnny's spinning nails that were attached to the web. Gyro then throws his steel balls at the nails, which gives it enough boost to finish off Oye.
I just want to say, when we find out that he's using this spinning fingernails, they didn't have to show that his nails were missing on his hand.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't have to.
But yeah, that's the end of the chapter. The pair just keep on racing. Like nothing ever happened. I also think just the fight overall, I like it a lot because it's like short, but it's just fun.
I really like the short stand battles in this part.
Overall, what were your thoughts on this section?
I really like this chapter. I mean, it showed so much creativity with this enemy stand's ability. You mentioned it earlier about how I just loved how they kept one-upping, like Gyro would do something and Oye's like, but I'm doing this now, and then Gyro would just top that. But I do like the fact that this fight required that both of them work together in order to beat Oye. But yeah, overall thoughts for this entire volume. I think that overall it's pretty good. I really like most of the stand battles in here. My only complaints would probably be the boom booms being just a little too long. Like my only complaints, I don't know, I think overall it was pretty solid. I'd probably give this, if I could give like a actual rating, probably 7 out of 10. I think the first volume was a stronger list of chapters for sure, but this one was still fun, and I really appreciated Johnny's and Gyro's banter.
And we are IGN, so 7 out of 10 doesn't mean bad.
Yeah.
I think this segment gets a little too much hate. Like I think it's a little overblown just because the rest of this part is so good. I think most of the chapters in here are really solid. This segment, unfortunately, has to live up to the rest of the fights in this part, which are all really, really good. And it kind of gets lost behind all the fights upcoming. I don't think there's like a bad fight in part 7. So yeah, but I think it's still good. 7 out of 10. This is probably, in my opinion, the worst segment.
That is saying
At a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, at a 7 out of 10.
I'm still excited to read the rest. On my way to read the 3rd volume. But yeah, there you go. That's our thoughts on this section. I hope you guys tune in for the next episode.
And watch us before the anime comes out.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.